Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, khushamdi, jiayanu, goeiemorgen.
Vergeiragele, ni hao, tune shumme, washmale, ohio gonzaimes, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal, hale shama chatore, ahlan wasalan marhaba, and a very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV1 and watching World this morning alongside the very amazing, the very talented Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan. Hello Shiza, how are you today?
Assalamu alaikum, I'm good, how are you?
Walaikum assalam,
And
I'm
glad
absolutely
that you're
perfect.
back, and I'm glad that you're back because you were not here yesterday, but we're also very proud of you for whatever you were doing yesterday.
Yeah.
You were great at it.
Thank you very much for that too as well. And you know, I think that 6th of September and 7th of September holds great importance in the history of Pakistan too as well, and in the history of armed forces, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people have sacrificed their lives in the line of duty, may it be Navy, may it be Army, may it be Air Force, may
And
it
the resilient
be,
nation itself.
yeah, may it be the civil society too as well, may it be students within the schools, may it be teachers within the schools who are defending children too as well. We are paying rich tribute to them, and we Pakistanis will never ever step back. That's something which we want to tell the world. We will never ever be offending anyone, but we are very strong at our defense, and anybody out there will actually have to think about it before they even leave, because they made a mistake back in 1965, they made a mistake back in 1971 too as well, and now they won't even make a mistake. I think we have given a strong message. This is what we are all about today. Ladies and gentlemen, today is 7th of September and it marks Yom-e-Fazaiya, which is Pakistan Air Force Day, and our entire show will be dedicated to people who have sacrificed their lives in the line of duty as well.
So, just yesterday as well, we were talking about Air Force because it is in fact a part of Pakistan's defense. And Air Marshal Saab was here yesterday as well, and he talked about how there's no peace or wartime for Air Force. For Air Force, it is always wartime because the boundaries they're defending and everything, they're not marked, so they have to be, sort of on their foot every time.
Exactly.
So there's no ease for them.
Exactly, and Air Force Day is actually being observed today with traditional zeal and dignity across the country to commemorate the heroes of Pakistan Air Force in the war of 1965 as well. Special ceremonies are being held to pay tribute to the heroes of Pakistan Air Force for their bravery during the 1965 war as well. And there's this one amazing thing which I would love to tell all our amazing viewers who are out there as well, and that is that ever since I was growing up, I always wanted to be a fighter pilot, always. And the sole reason behind that was that whenever we used to gather around our father, or probably we were going out, so my father was in love with, jets and Boeings, and he'll actually stop the car to just see the plane as well. So I had this mission earlier in my childhood, in my life, that I wanted to join Pakistan Air Force. But unfortunately, I appeared in the test, failed in 3 subjects, passed in 1. So obviously that's where I would land. But other than that, the type of dedication and the want which I had inside me to be a part of Air Force was such that I would actually wake up in nights crying, knowing that I will call it a nightmare that I'm not actually admitted into the academy too as well. Yeah, that's how it was. That's how the passion was.
The passion, yes.
And it is still as well. And which is why, ladies and gentlemen, what we have done is that we have actually called in people who have served the Pakistan Air Force with bravery, with zeal, at the same time, and they're going to let us know from 1947, because the most amazing fact is that Pakistan Air Force is second to none, first things first. Then the second best part is that it is the only Air Force which manufactures its own planes too as well, or jets too as well. So this is something which we need to be proud of.
Absolutely.
And Pakistan Air Force, I think, is one of the most disciplined forces within the world too as well, wherever they go in terms of competitions, they've always won too as well. But I think I need to talk less today, and I will give a chance to our amazing guests over here who've taken our time to let us know how Pakistan Air Force came into being, what happened in 1965, and then so on and so forth as well. Also on my right hand side, we're very proud that he's joined us actually today on Pakistan Air Force Day. Air Marshal retired Mr. Yusuf Chaudhry. Hello, assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us. And alongside Mr. Yusuf Chaudhry, we have been joined by Air Commodore retired Mr. Sayyid Shuaib Salim. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's great to have you guys over here. So before, I think what we need to do is that before we start talking, we need to listen to one of the songs which I've picked up for everybody out there, for the entire nation, and for all those Pakistanis who are out there, just to get a bit nostalgic as well, that what might have happened back then. Let's go, let's take a listen.
शाहीन हूँ, हवा का सिपाही हूँ, हवा का सिपाही हूँ, शाहीन हूँ, मैं शाहीन 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 हूँ, हवा का सिपाही हूँ, शाहीन हूँ। वतन की हिफाजत की खाकर कसम रहूं मैं बेपरवाह में दम बदम हर एक गाम पर है मेरी ये पुकार मैं गाती जियारा वतन पर निसार मैं शाहीन 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 हूँ हवा का सिपाही हूँ शाहीन हूँ झपटता पलटता हूँ मानिंदे बार मेरी दस्तरस में है जाए महाज मेरी हर झपट में अलग एक अदा मैं शैदा वतन का हूँ एक
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Hava Ka Sipahi by Najib Shiraz too as well. But at this very moment, I think what we need to do is that we need to move on to our guest over here. We're going to let us know about how Air Force came into being after, we got independent, and then the journey till 1965 war. Let's get started, sir. I think we'll start with you.
I think before I talk about that, I want to start from where you left, that you were very keen to join Pakistan Air Force, but unfortunately you couldn't do that. And there's a book written by two Indian authors about 1965 war. Her name is Psyche of Pakistan Air Force. They're very renowned writers. In the beginning of that, he says the advantage of Pakistan Air Force has that every bright and outstanding kid of Pakistan wants to join Pakistan Air Force.
Wow.
To start with, their manpower quality
you
is
very
far
much.
better than anybody else. So I think you are one of those,
you very much.
and that's the advantage you have. Secondly, he says that Pakistan Air Force has a special place in the psyche of the nation. He said there are only two Air Forces. One is Israel Air Force, and second is Pakistan Air Force. They play with the psyche of the nation because Air Force nation looks up to their Air Force.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very big tribute paid by nobody other than our enemy. As far as the start of the Air Force is concerned, the start was very humble. As we all know that after the partition, whatever assets were in different fields, they were to be divided among the two nations. Being a small nation, our portion or our share was very small. But unfortunately, most of these assets, they were positioned in central India, which became part of India. So they had to be transferred to Pakistan. And that's what they did, that whatever was to come, even that didn't come to as a share of Pakistan. For example, we were supposed to have more than 100 airplanes, and we hardly got 50 of them. Remaining didn't come. And another issue was, although these aircraft was old vintage and Second World War type aeroplanes, propeller airplane, Tiger Moth is one of them, and they were not very capable aircraft, and they were less in number as well. But more serious issue with Pakistan Air Force was that, as we know, that our literacy rate in Muslims before partition was very, very low. And there was hardly any pilot in Royal Indian Air Force. And same was true for technicians and engineers. So the manpower which we had in the beginning in 1947 was very, very limited. So even if we had the aeroplanes, we could not maintain them well, we could not even fly them. But the good thing which happened was that father of the nation, Quaid-e-Azam, visited Risalpur, and that's the only unit he visited because of his shorter tenure after 47. And I really wonder his vision, despite being a civilian, the words which he said, strategists even today really are surprised how come he had that vision. He said, a country without a strong air force is at the mercy of an aggressor.
Yes, indeed.
Pakistan, therefore, should build her air force as early as possible, which should be efficient and second to none.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And it was coincidence that father of the nation was saying it to the father of Air Force. Wing Commander Asar Khan then was commanding Risalpur.
Okay.
So they met face to face and this message was conveyed to him.
Wow.
So when he took over command of Pakistan Air Force about 10 years later in 1958, fortunately circumstances were in his favor because we had joined SEATO and CENTO. Because of Cold War, there were two worlds
Yeah.
and we joined America. So we were able to get the equipment. But within these few years, by 1962, we had a small, balanced and hard-hitting Air Force, which was acknowledged later on. Not only that, he managed to fulfill the shortcomings which we had in the manpower. Our pilots were trained in United States, they were trained in UK, and same was the training of other people. So in 1962, we had the manpower to optimally utilize whatever was given to them. And we have had, of course, the equipment also.
Right.
And we must realize his, must appreciate his vision as well, that even then in 62, 63, war plans were ready, they were made and ready, rehearsed, because he said one day our war is going to come with India. So in 1962, we had F-86 as mainstay, we had bombers like B-57, and we had then the fastest aircraft in the subcontinent, only supersonic, that was Starfighter F-104.
Wow.
So this was very, I think, compact Air Force, but very hard-hitting Air Force.
Right. So I want you to continue, take it on from 65 till date, Tell us how we have improved or come further in terms of modern techniques. Are we up to date with them? In terms of learning fighting, techniques, aircrafts as well, and professionalism of the Pakistan Air Force till date?
As Air Marshal has already mentioned that right from inception to Pakistan, the foundation was laid on a very strong footing.
Right.
And there onward we continued, and Shukr Alhamdulillah, from 65 war onward, we continued developing our Air Force.
Okay.
And the example I would like to give you, the whatever type of equipment, the weapons, aircraft or radars or these machinery we purchased, that was the best state of the art.
Okay.
Maybe
Wow.
trainer, you talk about a T-37 or Machak onward, and later on the F-16, we got the best equipment. And that was basically the ancestors who had set up a very good foundation. On that it continued working, and pure professionalism prevailed, and that's how we are the best Air Force in the world.
Indeed.
And we have incredible credentials on our credit. Maybe when 65 war, it was a manual type of warfare where we used to have the guns firing on an airplane to airplane and shooting them down. Within less than 1 minute, 5 airplanes shot down by our hero, M.M. Alam Khan. And it is
4 of them were within 30 seconds.
30
as well.
seconds.
Yeah.
And that thing is not ended there.
Yeah.
It has continued till today. Further
Right.
on the progress, once we move on, I'll be able to share a few of the incidents which only the Pakistan Air Force has the credential in the world which we
Amazing.
achieved.
But before we move on, there's this one thing. Why did you gentlemen join the
I
Air
was
Force in
about
the first
to.
place?
Oh,
You know,
God.
who were you inspired by? Why did you picked up, okay, Air Force, that's what I want to do. Let's start with you.
I think to start with, I was a student in 1965. We saw the war, and our media had played a very important role in motivating our younger generation. Because all
And
these,
was it only radio back then, or
it
just
was
newspaper?
radio, mainly radio.
Yeah.
Probably close to the war, TV had come, but it was very, very rare anybody saw the TV. It was the radio and the newspaper.
Okay.
And the calendars, I still remember in my room, calendar was hanging with picture of Air Marshal Noor Khan.
Okay.
And I knew him since then. So then, of course, atmosphere in the country was so, I would say, anti-India then, that everybody wanted to participate to thrash India in whatever way he could. So that's really, even a child dream was to become a fighter pilot.
Amazing. What
So the
about you, sir?
65 war is basically one of the driving forces for
Yes,
you to join.
it was.
Okay.
Amazing.
Wow.
What about you, sir?
The same way, Pakistan Air Force has a very high respect on the national level and at international level, and I was fortunate. I must say that I was lucky, and God has given me the chance to join the Air Force, and I'm very thankful to Allah Almighty that I joined Air Force, and I spent about 40 years, including my training cadetship, and it had been a wonderful experience.
That is amazing indeed. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is that we have taken out a lot of different content for you guys so that we can actually share it with you too as well. So go ahead and watch this amazing video. There's this kid who's actually narrating a story, and it's very important to listen to what the kid is actually saying. Let's go ahead. Let's take a watch.
Let's take a look.
ऊंची उड़ान उड़ने वालों, जमीन के नहीं आसमान के पहरेदारों, सलाम है तुमको मुल्क के रखवालों, सलाम है तुमको मुल्क के रखवालों। दिल में जज्बा लिए वतन की पासदारी का, जहाँ हथेली पे रख कर तेरे इश्क को बयां करते हैं, फलक को छूकर खुद को फना करते हैं, तेरी सलामती की हम दिनों रात दुआ करते हैं। सलाम है तुमको मुल्क के रखवालों, सलाम है तुमको मुल्क के रखवालों। बंद आँखों से कहाँ खुली आँखों से ख्वाब देखते हैं, हकीकत में ए वतन तुझ पे जान निसार करते हैं। फिजा में खुशबू है वतन के शहीदों की, ये तसव्वुर हम दिनों रात अयां रखते हैं। सलाम है तुमको मुल्क के रखवालों, सलाम है तुमको मुल्क के रखवालों। ए कौम और सल्तनत के मुहाफिजों, जुर्रत और शुजाअत की तुम आनो शान, जब तक है तुम में जज्बा और जान, मिटा ना पाएगा कोई हमारे मुल्क की पहचान। सलाम है तुमको मुल्क के रखवालों, सलाम है तुमको मुल्क के रखवालों। खुद को मिटाकर जो यौम दिफा की इम्तियाज बन गए, जिन्होंने मिटा दिया अपना आज हमारे कल के लिए, भूल ना पाएंगे हम कभी उन जवानों को, जो जा फिदा करके पाकिस्तान के तारे बन गए। सलाम है तुमको मुल्क के रखवालों, सलाम है तुमको मुल्क के रखवालों।
Salam tumko mulk ke rakhwalo. Ladies and gentlemen, we are definitely observing Pakistan Air Force Day, known as Jaume Fazaiya, but we have to head out for a short break. Don't go anywhere, because when you guys will come back, we'll actually ask what happened in 1965 on the 7th and on the 6th as well, when the Indian forces attacked, I think the place was known as Barki too as well. So we'll talk about that. We need to be very precise. And I think that the adrenaline is actually just taking
in.
over
Yeah.
whatever I want to do right now. So I'm just into movements right now. So let's go. Let's take a break. Let me calm myself down, and we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Good morning. Welcome back to World This Morning, you guys. Today we are celebrating Yom-e-Fizaya, also known as Air Force Day for Pakistan. Today is the 7th of September. And in that, we have for that joined with us Air Marshal as well, who's retired, and retired Air Commodore as well, who are here to share their stories, their experiences of Pakistan Air Force, and to enlighten us about what the history was. So at this point in time, I think, sir, we should move on to what the role of Air Force was in the 1965 war. And then later on, of course, we can move on to, the nationalism and everything. But in terms of the 1965 war specifically,
What
there
actually
were
happened
forces
that
on
day?
grounds as well. But specifically talking about Air Force, what happened then?
Because it was not announced that, something like this is going to happen. So it was very, haphazard. All of a
Yeah.
sudden you hear this buzzer and everybody's running to their planes.
And Air
Yeah.
Force gets to know it beforehand, right? Before everyone else does.
Yes. Not only that, through the equipment we find out before
Yeah.
anybody else finds out. I think the way your brain works, we find out before anybody else finds out. I will talk a little later about the leadership, quality of leadership Pakistan Air Force had, but to give you an idea
Yeah.
how early we can find out, Air Marshal Noor Khan took over the command of Pakistan Air Force a few weeks before the start of the war. Air Marshal Asad Khan remained Air Chief for almost 8 years. So when he took over the command, he went to call on Army Chief, as the tradition is. There he heard in the corridor people talking of Operation Gibraltar. And he guessed for, as I said before, he came back, he told his field commanders, get ready, war is coming.
Right.
So major difference between the two air forces was, I heard a program on 2015 on Indian channel.
Yeah.
There were 3 war veterans there. All 3 of them were unanimous that we were not prepared for the war. We got a shock of our life when we were told that tomorrow we are going to move forward for the war. Whereas here, gentlemen, knowing a little bit of information, knew that war is coming. He prepared his people well, and before the start of war, everything was in place and we were ready to take on the enemy. So that's a big difference between the two. And the war started formally on the 6th of September when Indian Army crossed international border. But before that, skirmishes were taking place in Cham sector because that's not international border. So our army was launching an offensive in that area. And they asked Pakistan Air Force for the help because they knew Indian Air Force is going to bomb them. And the very first mission on 1st of September, pilots were squadron leader Rafiqi Shaheed and flight lieutenant Bhatti. They went there and 4 vampires came from Indian side. 2 were shot down by Sarfraz Rafiqi, other 2 were shot down by Bhatti Saab. And that was the turning point on the very first day. Remember, if you look at any short war, maybe 1965 war, maybe Arab-Israel 1967 war, or maybe Gulf War, within first 2-3 days you can find out very clearly which air force is going to emerge as victorious.
Exactly.
Because remember, the most expensive equipment in the armed forces is aeroplane. Nowadays in rupees, it is in billions. And even more precious than that is the pilot.
Right.
The moment you lose a couple of aircraft and pilots, you go on the back foot.
Right.
You start to lose your morale. And the moment you lose your morale, you're gone. War is with positive morale. So that's what happened with Indian Air Force. Very first day they lost 4 aeroplanes and of course later on few. And how badly it struck them was that immediately they decided that Vampire was not a very good aircraft which could face Pakistani pilots and the aircraft. So 132 aeroplanes, they were withdrawn to the rear bases, not to be flown or flown where there's hardly any threat, or we'll use them if ultimately we really need them. And another aeroplane, Ordogan, I'm forgetting the name, they were 56, they were withdrawn. And as a result, 190 aeroplanes were out of the battle on very first few days. And Indian analysts themselves say the advantage which had, numerical advantage of that, to a great extent, we neutralize ourselves. And that is as a result of the starting of the war and taking the shots right in the beginning of the war.
But sir, how many jets did we had at that particular point of time? Because you, in the starting of the show, you mentioned that in 1947 they were supposed to give us 100 jets. They gave us 50.
Yeah.
We had lesser pilots. We weren't that trained too as well. But then you said that by 1962, 63, you know, we have had developed an Air Force which was second to none.
Yeah.
But I know that for sure that the resources might be very meager too as well, which is why that, you know, that the enemy was so willing to actually come into the borders and infiltrate too as well. So how did we manage the, you know, while not having those resources to fight back, we still did it. How did we did that?
Actually, Indian Air Force has two very distinct advantages over us, and unfortunately, they never made use of that. One is that
Are we going to tell them on television? Or,
yeah,
or they might know
they know
by
it,
now.
but
Yeah.
unfortunately, it is beyond them.
Yeah.
One is the resources put at their disposal because their economy is better, because their country is big, so they have enough money to buy anything they want. Pakistan Air Force cannot afford that luxury. Our resources are very limited because of our economic conditions. Secondly, the sources available to them to buy are again enormous. Today, they are buying from Israel, they are buying from America, they are buying from Russia, they are buying from France, they are buying from UK. So, the entire world is open to them. To us, very few people are ready to give equipment to us. So, at that point also, they had equipment or aeroplane from UK, they had aeroplane from France, they had aeroplane from Russia. So, their number was again big because of the economic conditions, and variety was quite a bit because more sources were there. We had only equipment from America, that too because we got closer to them. The ratio was again 1 to, some people say 5, some say a little less than that, but definitely we were badly outnumbered. But despite that, of course, it was that leadership, quality of manpower, and the morale, these three things I can talk in detail later on, they were the one which made the difference.
Amazing. Well, very amazing. Let me just move on to Saeed Shoaib Sab as well. Now, sir, when we talk about very well-trained Air Force, what are we actually looking into? What kind of discipline, what kind of demands do they have as an institution, as an organization, from their cadets, from their officers? What kind of life do you have to spend? Because you've spent 40 years, that's 4 decades. So, and I think that you still might be living that way too as well, because I've never ever seen, you know, somebody who's retired from the armed forces living a different lifestyle or acting like a civilian too as well. You can just tell that, okay, you know, I think this person is might be serving within the armed forces too as well. So how do you think that we were able to maintain or say that, you know, we are second to none, because it needs quite a lot of dedication in the longer run?
I think as Air Marshal has already mentioned, the Qaid's first message in 1948 visiting to the academy, that the country without the stronger air force is at the mercy of the enemy.
Exactly.
This is the statement. I have read so many air theorists. No one has been able to give such a precise definition of the air force or the air power. And that message was conveyed to the Air Marshal Asghar Khan and the younger generation at that time, and they developed that system and the leadership and the training and the type of environment which continued on, and before 65 or even, you must have heard in 48 also, and Air Marshal Noor Khan had been at that time, he had been himself flying in the C-130 cockpit and throwing the bombs through the C-130. So that was the type of thing what we gained from our ancestors. What respect today I am getting, that is all because of our leaders and our ancestors who have shown their self-character. Like Air Marshal, I am a very admirer of him. He himself was a very good pilot and a good professional. The trends, the trainings, those Air Marshal Noor Khan, Asghar Khan onward till his time and till today even, and current chief or the previous chief, they themselves are flying, and right from the pilot officer onward or the chief, they themselves are on the front in the cockpit.
Exactly,
And
that's what I was about to say.
That's the difference in
for
the
all
Air
those
Force.
people who are out there, that, you know, over here within our Air Force, it is imperative, it is necessary that the air chief actually needs to fly, and he needs to be in that condition physically too as well, and only then he can be an air chief too as well. Am I correct, sir, with that?
Yes, I would just like to expand a little more what he has already said. Remember, it's not very good to say ourselves that we are the best pilots in the world and all that.
Oh, we are. You know.
After 1965 war, a lot has been written on 1965 war because it was a surprise to the entire world There are small Air Force which was never heard of, managed to defeat many times bigger Air Force and done wonders. So there are many books which have been written on this war. And I will quote, I can't remember so many names, where in every book it has been acknowledged that quality of Pakistani pilots are far superior than anybody else. And one is UK International magazine in 1991, they wrote, they said Pakistani average fighter pilot is far better than, let's say, America, because America was the superpower, he compares that. And above average pilot is far better than the best in the world.
Wow.
Israeli Air Force commanders have said the same. And even the book which I was referring, Psyche of Pakistan Air Force, which was written by Indian authors, there when he is talking of Pakistan raids on Pathankot and Klaikunda and Jamnagar, and next day they tried to attack, they flew 33 sorties against Sargodha but didn't succeed. He says, because he is an Indian, he says, our pilots were equally brave, they were equally motivated, but he admits that it was the pilot ability which mattered, and their Pakistan Air Force pilots outsmarted our people. So their results were outstanding. We could not produce the result which we wanted. And why that happens is starting from, as I said before, that almost every young boy who is outstanding and brilliant, he wants to come to us.
Exactly.
Then out of 18,000, I remember when I joined, only 50 were selected.
Okay.
So choosy. And again,
Out of how many?
50.
Okay.
50.
Out of how many?
18,000.
18,050
Yeah.
were selected.
And then, of course, out of that, our course was one of the best courses, and we produced maximum pilots. We were only 35 graduated out of that 50. 5 joined, they were senior to us, they got relegated. 55, we passed out 35. And that was the maximum. And we don't stop here. We keep suspending the people at every stage, even after graduation.
Okay.
Finally, who came as accomplished fighter pilots, I think we were about 10, maybe out of that. So that's what one
Best of the best of the best of the best.
yeah.
Bestest.
So that's where one of the magazine, which I'm forgetting the name, he says Pakistan Air Force is paying a very heavy price because you're losing that asset. You have spent a lot on that pilot who graduated, and still you take him out of the main equation that you're not good enough to be a fighter pilot. But he says, as a result of that, whosoever becomes part of that integrated force, he's really outstanding.
Of course.
So
indeed.
that's why
There's no second doubt.
our pilots, mashallah, are doing so
Now,
well.
so there's no doubt to that. And just yesterday, when I was talking to Air Marshal over here, we were discussing the 65 war, and he mentioned that he was a student back then. And in that moment when the nation, the civilians found out that we are heading towards a war, everyone was gathered. You know, there were markets and streets, everyone was gathered near the radio. Everyone, be they kids, teenagers, women, men, they wanted to contribute in their own capacity, and they were even willing to go to the borders only to defend the motherland. Now, that spirit of nationalism, sir, we're talking about such a high level over here. Do you think that prevails in today's generation?
Definitely it prevails. As far as civil is concerned, I think it is just the leadership. As I said, it is already there. Pakistani nation has that's the positive quality that basically very emotional when it comes to our nation or
Patriotic
motherland.
so much, yes.
It is just one speech as it was given by Ayub Khan on 6 September 1965. An entire nation was a different nation. I saw that myself. I was talking to her yesterday, and that I heard that speech on radio because in different shops, radios were lying in their full volume. 30, 40 people got together trying to listen to that. And at the end of that speech, which was only, I think, 5 to 7 minute speech, must be, and I could see the eyes of the people, I could see the faces of the people. And next I could see when it was announced that we need blood, long queues. Those days blood giving was very rare, people very scared of giving blood.
Exactly.
There were long queues for that. There was a campaign started, 1 penny, 1 tank, because they needed money.
Okay.
And the boxes, I saw all of us, all the students, whatever pocket money we got, we used to put it in the box. And I saw at night, although I was in class 8, people like me and senior to us volunteered to become a guard at night. We thought they're going to parachute landing air, which was of course not there, but we couldn't understand. So it was different. And same is today. The day your leader gives a call, it will be a united nation, and it will be a far more different nation than what we think.
Indeed.
As far as Pakistan Air Force is concerned, remember our environment is such. As he very rightly said, we pass on our good things, that spirit of fighting, that standard of professionalism from one generation to next generation. We saw people like M.M. Alam, we saw people like Fred Bhatti. I happened to fly with these great people, especially Bhatti Saab. And they set standards for us. So we picked up from there, same motivation, same standards. We passed on to our next generation. They maintained that. So that spirit is there because that environment has been created. We have the role models to follow. And these issues are discussed almost every day. We are being motivated every day.
Exactly. But before we move on to...
I would like to continue.
Sure,
Maybe
sure.
it was the last part of your question also. That segment has not been responded properly, and as Air Marshal has rightly said, that is the filtration process in the Air Force. Other organizations also they do have their system, but in the Air Force, the best of the best is a filtration right from the first selection center onward till the time he becomes a chief or he becomes a fighter pilot. And it is not only fighter pilot professionalism, it is the ethics. Even I'll just like to mention here, even a person not paying a mess bill before, by 10th of the month, he is questioned.
All right.
And the base commander had been the most professional pilot. He was also sacked because of this thing. That means there's a checks and balances, and we are taught moral values as well as ethics and as along with the professionalism.
That is indeed amazing, but we definitely have something else to share. But before we do that, there's one thing which I want to ask, and that is that, you know, that, okay, now when I talk about spirit is something that, you know, when you are within that environment, you definitely get that adrenaline rush. But bravery is something which comes from within. You know, you cannot teach anybody how to be brave. You can teach the tactics, you can teach how to fly, you can teach how to probably drive a tank or a ship or whatnot. But how come that we are so lucky as a nation that every other son or daughter of the nation, whoever has actually taken the responsibility, has never stepped down? In fact, they've always tried to be right there. For example, I mean, there's a long list of martyrs. So how do you think that, you know, that quality comes in within everybody, within the civil society, armed forces, doctors, engineers, lawyers, as you just said, that everybody used to queue up for the blood too as well? So can you explain that?
I think it is the concept of martyrdom. And any child who is born and is a few years of age, that is instilled in his mind, that the position of or status of a martyr in the religion of that. So everybody, when you want to be a martyr, automatically you become brave. Because the most precious thing in life is your own life. And you're willing to give that. The moment you have that concept in mind, you are a brave man automatically.
Amazing.
I think martyr, that's why if you now see all across the world, even Indians and non-Muslim, they have started to use the word shaheed. Because they know the spirit which comes along with this name. So I think mainly it is that spirit of giving life in the name of Allah.
So you want to add something?
He has actually mentioned a very right thing, that the spiritually and martyrdom, that is the one thing. But I would like to add one thing more. That is the goal. In case if you have a goal set right there, after creation of Pakistan, India, Pakistan, two big, one bigger and one very smaller and meager resources, we set the goal that we have to survive in this world despite of having a disparity. And the goal was set, we have to be second to none, we have to survive, and that goal makes the people motivate, and then they work and
that is
perform.
indeed amazing. And you know, one more thing, ladies and gentlemen, that is that the type of slogans we have, I don't think that anybody else has got it. Because, for example, if anybody says whatever slogan, for example, Pakistan Zindabad, let it be aside. Let us just move on to, you know, where you know, when they get together and then, you know, the slogans are being said. A war veteran from army actually told me that, you know, India used to think about what should we actually be shouting. And, you know, they were scared of the fact when they could hear us from distance apart too as well. So this was one thing which I think will give me bravery too as well. You know, alongside 100 men, everybody's ready to
boosts
fight.
the morale,
Let's
right?
do it. Let's do it. We are going in.
Yeah.
But before we, wrap up the show too, sir, whatever your message is for the future generations, whatever your message is for the generations before as well, whatever you want to say to the nation, this is your day. Go ahead. Please talk to them.
I just want to say that in 1965 war, we had an enemy, and which was of course known, and the entire nation got together and we defeated that enemy. Today, situation is far more complex for Pakistan.
Okay.
That enemy is still there. Intentions have not changed. Rather, that enemy has become, unfortunately, far more stronger than she was in 1965 war. And we are confronted with fourth-generation war in which each aspect of a nation is attacked. Your economy, your morale, your unity, everything is being attacked. And we have enemy within the country, which is very difficult to identify and which is very difficult to defeat. So challenge is far more complex than what it was in 1965 war. Each and every one of us, whatever his profession may be, whatever position he may be holding in the hierarchy of his own organization, he got to pick up that what he can do for the nation, and each and every individual got to play a role to save the frontiers of this country today.
Right.
Amazing.
Brilliantly said.
So what about you?
Much less beautifully explained at a national level, strategic level. I will try to restrict myself
Go
to the
ahead.
lower level.
Okay.
There's the Air Force level. Air Force consists of two things, offense and defense.
Yeah.
And Shukr Alhamdulillah, we are very good at offense. We have the hard punching capability, as well as the air defense. And the air power plays a significant role in any war. And the air defense, as we were talking, during the peacetime also, the Air Force is at war. Maybe it a fighter aircraft or maybe a defense. And the air defense of the country is very strong.
24/7.
24/7, and air defense system, maybe the equipment, maybe the technology, and Shukr Alhamdulillah, we have a lot of indigenous technology, and the air defense system is so intact that during the post-Bombay attack, for 1 year, Indian forces, they marched on their borders, but they could not cross the border because of our deterrence. And that was the thing what we achieved, and I would like to give the message to the nation. Do join the Air Force because we need the young generation. Maybe you can contribute to the Air Force, maybe as a pilot, engineer, technician, or air defense
any
controller,
capacity that
a number of
Very
admin
nice.
things.
One last thing before we wrap up the show, and that is that if, God forbid, today you get a chance or you get a call, we need your services, would you be there? Yes or no?
Oh, definitely.
Definitely yes. That's who
Without
we
a
are,
question.
ladies and gentlemen.
More
That's
than
who
willing.
we are, without
More
any
than
doubt.
willing,
And
yes.
if there's anything you want to ask us, because we're short of time, we have to wrap up too as well. So if there's anything you want to ask us, please write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of
Well This Morning.
on Twitter,
Well This Morning without a G.
on Daily Motion and YouTube.
Well This Morning.
The fabulous repeat's going to be at
11 in the night.
and this is how we say our slogans. Pakistan,
Zindabad.
Good morning. Thank you very much.